Radio Hour.
Hey, everybody, welcome back. We're at the Gilbert Barrio Queen today. It is Taco Tuesday and also an El Bandito Yankee Tequila Tuesday as well. Joining us now, Kyle Vanden, former Arizona Cardinal, Titan, and Detroit Lion defensive end. You can follow Kyle on Twitter at KVandenBosch93, at KVandenBosch93. Kyle, it's Jimmy B and Manuch today. How are you, pal?
I'm doing great, guys. How are you?
All righty. Well, we're terrific because we're hanging out getting free food, which is always a plus. Let me just drop this on you then to begin our conversation. Your expectations, what you thought you would see out of game one from the Cardinals, were those expectations met on offense and defense or not?
I think my expectations were exceeded really on both sides of the ball, particularly defense. I mean, look, we sat a couple of key players. The Denver Broncos had their first string offense in for an extended period of time. And, I think I was extremely pleased with the edge pressure for sure. I was pleased with the overall performance of the defense. And the same can go for the offense. I mean, while the offense didn't get points on the board till the third quarter, which, could be disastrous in a real game and in a regular season game, but the operation was efficient. There's definitely some things to build upon. Clayton Tune started out, airmailing a few passes, and it didn't look quite in sync, but I think he kind of pulled it together in the second half, and I think he played well. And again, we were without some of our better players on the offensive side of the ball as well. So I was encouraged. I mean, I think this team will certainly be competitive against anybody and everybody. And I think, overall, the third category that I was extremely impressed with was the job of coaching that this new coaching staff has done up to this point.
Last week we talked about watching Zaven Collins and Isaiah Simmons, to be exact, two former inside linebackers. So you watch Collins in the secondary, not Collins, but coming off the rush edge, and then Isaiah in the secondary, moving around, fairly freely. Just get your overall evaluation of both those young men in that preseason game.
Yeah, limited reps for both of them. So, you can't get a full assessment, but both of them look like they're in the right position. I mean, it's easy to understand or see now why this coaching staff felt that the move was best for both players and best for the defense. And I expect with a little bit more play, hopefully against the Chiefs, against a really good offense, an offense that tends to confuse you with, pre-snap shifts and motions. It'll be a good test for both of them. But I thought Zaven in particular, he's obviously big and strong, so he's at the point of attack. But, they ran a bootleg, had a tight end try to steal him and release into the flat. And, it was like he'd seen that play 1,000 times in his lifetime and just reacted and got a hit on Russell Wilson. So, I think his learning curve, while it's steep, I think he's doing a good job of getting up to speed. To me, the biggest thing, when you're at inside linebacker, you obviously need to diagnose things very quickly because things happen, but more so at the defensive end or outside linebacker position, when you're on the line of scrimmage, you don't have the luxury of thinking. You do all of your thinking pre-snap, and then you've got to get to the point where you just react, and you've seen things enough times that you're instinctive. And, at no point did he look like he was hesitating or confused. He just kind of went and was able to trust his instincts.
It's interesting when you talk about the tangibles and intangibles that you saw in defense. You rattled off a couple there with him, seeing that bootleg, that waggle and popping out. But what were some of the other simply intangible things you saw out of this defense? Surprisingly, I thought they put a lot of heat on Russell Wilson early on. But what were some of those things you saw that the naked eye would not see?
Yeah, no. I honestly, we had talked about this before. One of my biggest concerns was I don't I wasn't sure who was going to be able to get pressure. Dennis Gardeck had done it a little bit in spot duty for one season. Hasn't shown that flash since. He won on an early down on a legit counter move. And, we talked about Zaven hitting Russell Wilson. Cam Thomas looked like he could really develop into a dependable pass rusher, showed some explosiveness, had a sack himself. I thought Jesse Luketa looked good out there. And saying all of this, they probably played that game without their potentially two most athletic, potentially two most disruptive edge rushers in Myjai Sanders and B.J. Ojulari. Now, both of those players, B.J. Ojulari in particular, he needs to get some practice in. He needs to get up to speed. I think that they're counting on him this season to, be a part of that rotation. But, for a position group that had a lot of question marks, and obviously you can't, make too many conclusions from the first preseason game. But that room looks like it might be a really deep position group because while there may not be a superstar, while there may not be a 10, 15 sack guy in that room, it looks to me like there is, at least a handful of players that can get pressure. And to me, more important than having a dude is having a solid rotation on the defensive line where you can bring in fresh guys, and it's a problem for these offensive tackles who are out there 60, 70 plays a game, particularly late in the fourth quarter when it matters the most.
Kyle Vanden Bosch is our guest on the Right Toyota guest line as we continue to broadcast here in Gilbert from the Barrio Queen. All right, so I know that drafting an offensive tackle is not sexy. It's not the sexy thing for fans. But in your estimation, how did their top draft choice, Paris Johnson Jr., handle himself?
Yeah, I thought he did. He did extremely well. He certainly didn't look like a rookie. Particularly early in the game, going against a guy like Randy Gregory. Look, Randy Gregory, he is what he is. He has inconsistent effort at times, but he is a problem. And that could be the toughest type of player to block, particularly on pass downs, because you never know if he's coming hard or if he's going to bring it. But, he's shown the ability that he can get to the quarterback and he can beat some of the best tackles in the league. And Paris Johnson Jr. held his own. I think, all the things that I had been hearing that I saw from him in college, I think he did well. I think he's long, he's athletic, so he can, go toe-to-toe with some of these speedy edge rushers. To me, one of the things I think he could continue to develop is the ability to move people at the line of scrimmage, really that first offensive line. And I'm encouraged by the offensive line. There wasn't a lot of lanes there. We were chipping away with that first unit and picking up 2-3 yards of carry tops. And it wasn't, a lot of it didn't fall on the running back. The running back was getting what they could get. So to me, with this offensive line in particular, the junior, that's the thing I'm looking for against the Chiefs is the ability to open some lanes, get some 4 or 5 yard runs up the middle.
2 minutes.
And then I think the offense as a whole did a good job of mixing up run and pass, mixing up formations, under center, shotgun, all of that, and never really being predictable. But at the same time, the run at this point, and I understand that James Conner wasn't on the football field, but the run game at this point was not a big enough threat to bring an extra safety down into the box because the defense sees that the run's a problem. I mean, it looked to me like, in that first preseason game, the defenses could probably hang in there with 7 guys in the box and still keep a safety deep in coverage. So, I think that's the next step is being able to open holes between the tackles and get some good yardage up inside so that the defensive coordinator has to make adjustments and bring extra guys in the box, and then that will do some things for our passing game as well.
I got about a minute here. I agree with you. I think it was a very clean game. Just 1 turnover, just 4 penalties, aggressive. But what I loved at halftime, and I'm an ex-quarterback, I love this kind of comments from your head coach. When he says, our defense needs to hit more. And I'm like, hey, played a half. I thought they were fairly aggressive, but I love coming from a guy that, hey, look, it's almost like, hey, we haven't done a damn thing yet, right? Kind of Pat Tolman going back about
Right.
and joining the Army and moving on. And I loved that from the standpoint of that message, I'm sure, was loud and clear because the offense picked up on that in the second half. And they seemed to come out more aggressive. But I just love that kind of attitude from your head coach. Like, guys, we got to hit more. And they just had a fairly decent first half.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, I thought to myself, and I even said out loud to somebody that's sitting by at the game, we had the right head coach. I know that we interviewed Sean Payton and we were serious about that interview process, but I think we have the right guy, particularly for where this team is at. He's wired the right way. And I mean, again, look, you can't say enough good things about the clean operation. I mean, I think there's 23 new coaches on this staff. There's 43 new players. So it's not like you can just cut and paste from anything they did last year. Everything is new installed, installing a new defense, a new offense. There was never 12 guys on the field, never 10 guys on the field, never had to burn a timeout because we couldn't get a playoff in time. And, even in a preseason game where most people think it doesn't matter, trust me, it matters to these coaches, it matters to these players, but to have the foresight in the first preseason game to allow the Denver Broncos to score a walk-in touchdown so that you can get the ball back and have an opportunity to win. I think that this coaching staff is really on top of it, and I think it's going to be even more buttoned up as we go along.
Great to have you on the show as always, pal. Thank you for the insight. Have a great day, Kyle.
Yeah, I love visiting with you.